All right, everybody, I want to welcome you to today's top producer interview. I'm Edith Espinola, and this month we're interviewing Scott Poncetta. Scott has been in business for over 20 years, and during that time he's sold residential and commercial real estate. He is a top producer, and he's won many awards. And he's also the leader for Mega Agent.
Yeah, I run the top talent mastermind for the company.
Yeah, so
which starts at 11:30 today.
We'll be done by then.
Yeah.
So he provides lots of words of wisdom and inspiration to the top producing agents in our office. So once again, please help me welcome Scott Poncetta. Scott, thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. Thanks for asking.
Oh, of course. So I was wondering, what did you do before you got into real estate?
I did a bunch of things, actually. My mother, who's in the room with us.
Hi, Linda.
One of my two favorite people in the world. She knows my path as well as anybody, but I was pretty much a serial entrepreneur from the time I was kind of in high school. My father was an entrepreneur. He was a pharmacist, but he built a couple of businesses that were really big outside of pharmacy or kind of within that industry. So I grew up around entrepreneurs, and I think one of my first jobs, I was kind of running a small fresh squeezed orange juice company when I was about 16. It wasn't mine, but I kind of ended up running it for this guy.
Was that the precursor to fresh juice wine?
No, but that guy could have been the Dio Dwala. But anyway, when I was in college, I was the concert director for my school, for my university. And so we put on a lot of shows and concerts, so I was in charge of that. And music's a big part of my life, part of my past. From there, we started a small concert production company, and it turned into a festival producing company.
Oh, wow.
This is all when I was like in my early 20s. And then those were tough businesses. And then I managed a band for a while when I started to develop real estate. For 10 years, I managed a band and developed real estate. And then when I decided to get out of that, there was a little bit in between that too, but I decided that the development industry wasn't for me, and I was going to sell real estate and take some of the risk out of it, actually, and help other people to purchase and transact real estate. So that was kind of what I did before.
Wow, so I knew that you were really into music before.
Right.
And do you have like a music collection? Do you have a vinyl collection?
I do.
You
yes.
do? How many are in your collection?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe 1,200.
1,200? That's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I assume because you used to run a business that did concert promotion and then eventually festival productions, that you've gone to lots of concerts yourself.
Oh, yeah, a handful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, different like venues, right? Like small to large.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
No. That's probably what I do mostly with my non-work time. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of shows. It's just something that kind of fills me up. It's kind of a platform for me to think. That's the way I look at it. And I find in live music that there are these moments when I kind of experience a certain kind of bliss. A band can do that for me. And I continue to go back for those moments. You know, it's kind of like hitting a perfect golf shot. When a band captures your like heart and gives you goosebumps, that's something that I love and I always seek.
That's awesome. So who are your favorite bands?
Living.
Well, they could be living and dead. Well, let's say, how do you feel about the Beatles?
I like the Beatles, but they're not one of my favorites.
Okay.
I do. Stevie Ray Vaughan is a blues musician that has always been my very favorite. He touched my soul in a way that nobody else has been able to. I love a local band called Mother Hips. I was a Grateful Dead fan for many, many years. I saw a lot of shows. Yes.
So did you wear the tie-dye?
I did indeed.
Awesome.
Yeah, and at one time my hair was down to the middle of my back.
No way. So did you, is your hair that wavy look?
It's pretty wavy, yeah.
Oh, how cool. How old were you?
How old was
45.
What was I,
Yesterday?
Mom? Late 20s, early 30s? Probably for about 5 years.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Who else are your favorite bands?
Gosh, the Widespread Panic is a band with one of my favorite bands. I love U2, for ones that people would know. Who else do I love, Bobby?
Pretty much everything.
I pretty much love everything if it's
Started
good.
like country now, I understand.
Yeah, I just started liking a little bit of country. Really, country and rap are the only things that I don't really go to, but I also did an internship at a jazz radio station when I was in college, and I really felt like that probably was a good fit for me. It was music business and business. I've always had a business head. But when I got in there and worked in radio, I found out that nobody really gave a crap about the music. They just cared about selling airtime. So I knew it wasn't for me right away. But it was a great experience. I knew it 6 months in, 6 months out, and I knew that wasn't my direction.
Mm-hmm. It's always good to know what doesn't work as well as what does work, right?
Agreed.
Like knowing what the no is sometimes is more important because then it just focuses you into the yes, right?
Absolutely. In fact, in real estate, I find that to be true as much as anywhere else. I tell my clients, finding your perfect home is as much about eliminating as it is about finding. So it's about getting rid of all the stuff that we know we don't want. Areas, school systems, what have you. Characteristics.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to move it to real estate right away.
No problem.
But anyway, that's true. I
Yeah.
think, and I encourage all young people to do internships and just try industries they think they're interested in so you can get a taste of it. Because you might think you like it and you find out you don't.
Mm-hmm. That's really good that's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
So, music, because it's such a love of mine, it sounds like it's a way that you refresh your soul. So it's important to your spirituality, right?
Way up there, yes.
Awesome. So when you're preparing to meet with your real estate clients, what kind of music do you put on before you go and do a listing presentation, for example?
Something that elevates my mood, gets me positive. I'm like anybody who has my ups and downs and my moods. And, even when you're super tired or you're angry about something, you got to find that space, even if it's for an hour, if it's for 2 hours to go. And, what we do is we perform for the most part. And no matter what's going on in the rest of your life, you got to find that center and find that ability to really be excellent in that moment, and music does help me get there. I would have to say I divert or revert to kind of either a dead or something that's groovy but kind of uplifting and happy, makes you smile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's kind of like your center, the groovy part, right?
Yeah,
the Dead and the Stevie Ray Vaughan, that kind of
I'm not a
can you tell I'm into music? That kind of feeling, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big lyric listener, frankly. It's really about kind of the way it makes you feel. For me.
Well, that's even more powerful because then you just let the sound go through your energy, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. I love that.
Yeah. And like I said, I feel like live music for me, especially when it's good, is just a backdrop for your thoughts. I'm not focused in on what they're saying in the lyrics so much. It's just kind of, it sets a mood and a platform for me to kind of go different places in my head.
Do you have music playing all the time pretty much?
No,
Really?
I did when I was younger. I don't as much anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
now I'm
interesting.
listening to podcasts and, talk radio.
Yeah.
Now I'm old.
You've grown up a little bit. So that really surprises me that you used to do music festivals, that you used to plan them, right? So,
How come?
well, because I knew that you were into the music and you were in the music industry, but like planning a festival, that's like a huge thing. I just didn't realize that you did that. So the music festivals that you planned, were you managing any of those groups? And give us a story of one, like how many bands, what was it called, where was it located?
Okay, well, just one that comes to mind was...
The Fry Festival? Sorry.
Bobby!
Does everybody know what the Fry Festival is? Yeah?
I don't.
Some people? Anyway. It was
Well, what's
a
the ones who
huge
don't know?
festival gone bad.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, really bad. So thanks, Bobby, for trying to associate me with that. No, one was in Sedona, Arizona. We traveled around, did them in different places, and that was a fine art, fine wine festival. And music wasn't the focus of that one. The fine art, the fine wine was, but music was an element. So we hired a number of different jazz acts. Alex DeGrassi was the main performer at that one. But those events. When you produce events, there's nothing that prepares you for multitasking like producing events. I mean, you're managing the bands, you're managing the stage, you're managing the volunteers, you're managing the labor, you're managing the security, the arts and crafts, the artists, the whole venue, the sponsorship, the radio promotion. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a ton of work. And
Did you love it, or was it like, I'm not into this?
I didn't continue to do it, so
Did you love it
there
for
were
a
elements
season?
of it. There were elements of it that I really loved, for sure. But ultimately, there was just a tremendous amount of work, and it was kind of like rolling the dice. If enough people show up, you make money, and if not enough people show up, you don't make money. But you can spend 9 months out of your year planning it, working on it, and if you don't make money, you don't make money.
Yeah.
You didn't just lose money on the deal, you lost money on all that opportunity cost of your time.
Right.
So
Right.
so that was I became a little less I'm a pretty risk tolerant person, but I wasn't that risk. I was risk averse enough to get out of that business. So but it was a great platform, a great learning experience for me. And, I negotiated deals all day long in that industry, and that was in my early 20s. So, and I just think in our service business, we negotiate all day long. Even if it's with your subcontractors or with your title people or whatever, you're always negotiating, and you just got to do it with ethics and positivity all the time.
Right. I have found that everything that we do in our life leads us to where we are today, right? And so it sounds like, doing the festival productions, you were a producer. And I have a friend who's a film producer, and when I got into video production, she said, Edith, after you do this, you can do anything, because life is a production, right? So if you could produce events, then you can produce anything. And then real estate is a production, right? We're all producers. We're in charge of everything. So do you agree with that the skills that you learn doing those negotiating has brought you so many skills today?
No question about it. I mean, they all are part of who I am today. And, provides the foundation for why I'm good at what I do. And I've come to a point where I know that I'm really good at what I do at this point. I wasn't always. There's a lot of new faces in here today, but every deal, I learn on every single deal. And that goes back to those, I produced records too. That was one of my favorite things, putting together records and working with producers and artists. And they all go into what we do today, though. You know, you've all chosen to sell real estate, and I would guess that everything you've ever done is part of what you do here, you know, in for KW and for yourselves, for your own businesses. For me, certainly, every single step, and I failed a lot along the way. I mean, I really failed, and
Well, speaking of failure, then, what are your thoughts about failure?
God, failure's a bitch. That's it hurts. Yeah, you know, but I think it's really, really important to have failed. If you haven't failed, you haven't tried enough.
Right.
That's how I feel. But you haven't tried hard enough, or you haven't put yourself out there enough, or you haven't been vulnerable enough if you haven't failed. But, you know, I mean, that pain that is associated with failure is kind of what makes you strong and makes you confident. When you do succeed, you know the difference, and you know how good it feels when you succeed, you know, and how bad it feels when you don't. And I mean, you know, you can even liken that to any kind of listing presentation. Anytime that anybody's lost on one, it feels crummy, you know, and you wonder why. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you know the reasons why, and sometimes you don't. But failure is critical to success, I think.
Absolutely. Well, failure is just an event, right? And like you said, if you've never failed, then you're not really trying. Yeah. So if you're failing, then you're just supporting that whole thought process that you're trying. So you should be encouraged by failure, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So you've been doing real estate for over 20 years now.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you're saying that you're still learning?
Every day.
Wow.
Every deal. Every deal I learn on.
Every deal you learn on.
Some more than others, but no doubt about it. Every single deal, I think we learn something on.
Yeah, so that's really important for like newer agents to recognize, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll take questions at the end.
Just excuse me, there is somebody who parked a BMW in the front of the reception, and a handicapped person can't get into his car because this car is blocking. So if anybody who is in the white BMW who parked right in front of reception.
White BMW, anybody?
Nope.
I think they're
Thank you so much.
great.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah. Okay, so it's really important then for new agents to understand that even here, after 20 years of a successful, thriving real estate business, you're still learning something with each transaction.
Yes.
Awesome.
And it's important to know that it wasn't 20 years of success either. You know, I've had my ups and downs like anybody else. You know, through the hard times in 2008, 2009, 2010, I almost had to short sale my house. I wasn't one of those people who came through that strong. You know, I didn't build the relationships with the REO companies, and I struggled. Boy, it was a super depressing time for me. So it hasn't all been rosy, but I finally really am at a time in my career anyway where it just seems to be coming to me all the time right now. And that's been going on now for a few years. So I'm feeling really, really blessed. And I know that I've done good work to get there, but I see young agents and I feel for them because it can be so hard to start a career in this industry. It's so hard to maintain a career in this industry, you know, and now it's kind of, I won't say it's in my rearview mirror. I'm sure I've got some challenges ahead, but right now it's all referral and it just keeps coming, and I'm just feeling really lucky, you know.
So what did you do over the years to get you into the spot that you're at today, right? Like you said, it's all referrals. So that means that you had nurtured relationships with people. Right. So what did you do? How did you, if you could like look back on the past 20 years, what would you say were the most important things that you did to build your business up to where you are today?
Well, I think I've said this before in different situations, but I think without a question, the number one thing I've done over time is, and I'll say a few things actually, but the number one thing that I've done every time, and it may sound corny, but I put the client ahead of my own interests every single time, no matter what. And we all know that if you don't do that, you can make a lot more money. It's easy to be unethical in this business. And I mean, it's as simple as people trust you to give them advice on whether to buy something or not buy something. We could talk somebody into buying something overpriced all day long and get way more deals done. But for me, in the end, by never doing that, by telling people over and over and over again not to buy something, is the best thing I think you could ever do. Because people, there's a stereotype around agents. You know, we're just one step up from used car salesmen and one below lawyers. You know, and they're expecting you to potentially be an unethical person, or they're looking for it. So when you consistently tell them not to do something or tell them something they wouldn't expect, you're gonna gain trust and loyalty, and they're gonna believe you. And then when you tell them to do something, they do it. It's about gaining trust. I think the business is all about gaining trust, and that fundamental relationship that you have with your clients, and them respecting you and honoring you, and you doing the same for them. And one of the things that I always try and keep in mind too, I don't know how many transactions I've done, but it's 100, 200 something. And one thing I always try and remember with people is that this is the biggest thing in their life today. Yeah. And it's not the biggest thing in your life. I know that, or I hope it's not, because that means it's only that one deal for you. But you do it over and over and over and over again, and I still, every single time, try and treat every transaction, or try and be mindful of the fact that this is the biggest thing in their life, and bring myself into that headspace where I understand that about them, and I approach it with that in mind. That's the top of my mind, is that I demand kind of excellence out of myself, and I make sure that I talk to them in a vernacular way that makes them feel really comfortable and lets them know that I'm there for them and not there for me, and that they can trust what I say. It's a confidence booster for me, and it translates into good business.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you're building trust with people, are you wearing like the quote unquote realtor hat, or are you wearing the Scott Poncetta hat? In other words,
both.
are you, well, there's an image of a realtor,
Sure.
right? And then there's who you are.
All right.
So which are you wearing both of them? Like,
I'm way more wearing the Scott Poncetta hat.
So it's more important to be authentic.
It's less about the business and the deal than it is about my relationship to them. Mm-hmm. And I have a history, and I have experience, and I have a website that's got a ton of transactions on it. So everybody in this day and age, they've looked at that already. So the experience I bring to any kind of deal or any kind of relationship is kind of assumed or understood. So from then, it's just really about me making sure that they really know that I know what I'm doing, and just making sure that they know that I place them first. Mm-hmm. And because it's a referral business, and I mean it's 100% referral business, and it has been for a long time for me. Usually, and this will sound weird, but I can only remember pitching a listing against another person twice in my whole career. Mm. Yeah. And one I lost to Nunnally.
Oh, Chuck or Ryan? Chuck.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to lose to someone, Chuck's a good one to lose to, right? He's been in the industry forever, and everybody loves him. So.
Yeah. But mostly the point of that is that I get such a strong referral from my clients or past clients that I don't really ever have to compete. So I'm super, super blessed that way. And I know that. But I walk into that room and people are never asking, or they're never telling me that I'm competing with anybody. We don't talk that much about commission. It's kind of unusual, I think, in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that, I do like with my team and everybody on it, I can be kind of a hard ass, and I really demand excellence, and there's some tension sometimes, but I demand excellence out of myself, and I do out of my team too. So that user experience that people get when they work with my team is super duper high.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, so that everything just runs like seamlessly to like
at
them.
least they think so.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, that the client thinks so, right? That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. So, okay, so it sounds like what we want to do as agents is we want to build up our, our success stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we've got the website and we've got, our postcards and our emails that talk about our success.
Right.
But when we're with our clients in person and we're actually going for a listing presentation or a buyer consultation,
Yeah.
it's more about who you are, right? And
Right.
your connection to them.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah, and another big thing that I do that I would recommend to agents is I do client appreciation parties and events, and they're cool. I mean, they're not boring; they're fun. I put live music there. I bring in caterers. I usually do it at my house, which is in the mountains, and it's a unique property. But I just did one up at a winery in Saratoga Hills. It wasn't very expensive, but talk about. I really like to enjoy my clients or outside of the business, as a way to thank them, but also as a way to get them to know me, to get to know me and my team and my other clients. And, it's helpful when you get them together and they talk about how good you are. It really does. And, then they're that much more inclined to keep telling other people about you, and it just kind of keeps growing and growing. But it's not just about real estate. Nothing's just about real estate, You got to do it with some kind of levity. It's got to be light. It's got to be kind of fun. I see really serious agents out there all the time, and if I could just slap them on the back and say, just lighten up, dude. These people, they're going to feel that tension if you're displaying that tension, And, I think the most important thing is when things feel like they're falling apart behind the office door, that they never can know that, You never let them know that things are troublesome until they're so troublesome you can't avoid it, You never want to hide anything from your client that's important, but at the same time, making people feel at ease and calm and like what you're doing and like this is all going to get done and they don't have to worry about it is another key to the business.
Mm-hmm.
The better you can do that, the more successful you'll be.
Right. That's great because it's actually just being a leader,
Yeah.
right? And you're just leading and guiding them through the process so that they feel like I'm taken care of, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome to know that you do client events and that that's how you continue to nurture your database.
Right.
How often do you do them?
I probably do a big one every year, and then I'll do a couple of small events throughout the year. Really what I do is I do a big one that everybody's kind of gotten used to, and I invite pretty much everybody. And usually there are 100 plus attended.
Nice.
And then I do smaller ones where I focus on the clients that I'm working with now or did something with this year. And so that I can manage the costs and manage the hassle. But, that's how I try and break them out. Or this last one I did, I just said I'm doing it for my AA clients, my very best clients that refer me business and talk about me all the time and just gave them a night of wine and music on the hill that they loved. It was a great night. And I also let them know that I thought they were my AA clients, And
So
I
they're
couldn't
feeling
post it
the
on
love.
social media because I didn't want the other clients to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the ones that were there were feeling the love. They felt appreciated. They felt important. And they probably are always going to be your raving fans.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
I think they are.
Now, I know that you make wine. So do you serve
do.
your own wine at your parties?
I do.
And what's the feedback you get? Do people like it, or do they not talk about it?
I tell them right up front, if you don't like the wine, lie.
Right?
Yes.
I need some good love too, right?
Yeah. No, but my wines are pretty good, so I don't have much problem with it. It's I usually get raves about the wine, and we usually do what we call a vertical tasting. It'll be, my 11, 12, 13 over time, so that they can taste. And I love to hear which ones people like the most. And we don't pour anything else, so they're kind of restricted to that.
Yeah, like it or not, that's it, right? So which year is the best one right now?
What do you think, Ma? I think my favorite right now is a 16 Syrah that we just bottled last year.
A 16 Syrah.
Or a 2011 Cab.
So you buy the grapes, right?
The only thing we don't do them is pick them.
You don't pick them.
We don't pick them, but we go to vineyards. We buy the wine at the vineyard, or buy the grapes at the vineyard. Crush usually at the vineyard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a labor of love. It's my. I started in 2002 and haven't missed a year. Mm-hmm. Actually, I missed 1 year. Yeah, because of the drought.
Yeah. So I'm all about energy, right? And how the energy that we bring to anything that we do affects the outcome.
Right.
So if 2016 is like one of your better bottles, what was going on at the time in your life, right? I mean, in 2016, was business good?
No, that was my weakest year in the last 10. Just so you know, we just bottled the 2016, but no, I was going.
No, when you were bottling, so before you bottled, that energy is going into the bottle.
Yeah, well, it's a strong wine. It's a tannic wine. That was the year I was going through divorce.
So you were choosing to do what's right for you.
It turns out that that's exactly right. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. But it still was a very, very dark year for me. Mm-hmm. One of the darkest that I can remember. There's only one that was darker, and that was the year that I lost my dad. It was 2005. So those two years, though, were the two toughest times in my life, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that had anything to do with the wine or not, but yeah, those were. I felt like I made really good decisions in 2016, but at the same time, boy, was it difficult. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a very sensitive person, as you know.
Right.
Emotional, and that was a tough thing to do. Tough thing to go through.
One of the things that I found about facing, our most difficult decisions in our life is that it forces us to see who we are and what our strengths are. And did you find that when you were going through your most difficult time?
I think I found it it through that process. Mm-hmm. I kind of had lost touch with what I thought were some of the best elements about who I am. Mm-hmm. And you regained the awareness. Kind of rediscovered and regained some of those. I kind of feel like I'm coming back out of it and back kind of to who I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but I felt like I was modifying my life a lot in that relationship. Mm-hmm. And now I don't feel the need to do that. So I get to be me kind of again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it was, even though it was a difficult time, that was the death of who you were at that time in that relationship. And then now there's the rebirth
yes.
of who you truly are. Mm-hmm. And now you know the value of love for yourself. And you know the importance of relationships, and it's obvious in your business and in your son, right? Tell us a little bit about your son.
Oh, my son's fantastic.
He's adorable.
He's a good-looking little kid. He's very charming. He's very bright, and he's 10 years old. Little blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid. He got the looks of his mother, gratefully. But the thing I love so much about this kid is that he's very compassionate, and he's very perceptive. Like he's wise beyond his years in a lot of ways, and but he truly has a heart for people, and he's just such a sweetheart, and he's funny, and he's and frankly, before my divorce, I felt like all the time, and 6 days a week. It's easy to do in this job, and so I was probably working 60 hours a week, getting up early when it was dark and coming home at 7 and getting an hour with my kid and then starting all over the next day. And we work a lot of weekends too. And so then when I went through this and I found out that, I got 50% custody, and I thought, oh my gosh, my business is gonna tank. I really felt like there's no way I'm going to be able to put the same amount of hours in, and I don't. But I really felt like, okay, my business is, I got to be prepared that my numbers are probably going to go down 30-40%.
Did they?
And they did not. In fact,
why do you think?
last year was my best year ever. And that's when I probably worked 60% of the hours that I used to. So I can't even exactly tell you how, but I mean, I have to be a lot more efficient with the time that I have.
Have you found that you became more efficient with that time that you put in, right?
Yeah.
So you were more purposeful.
More focused. I have to really not do that crap that you get caught up in, trolling Facebook or, we all do it, but it's easy to procrastinate too. We don't have bosses. So if you want to screw off, you can. And I'm not saying I screwed off, but it forced me to really only focus on the things that I know make me money. And I became a lot better at that. And I became better at delegating. And I did better than I ever had. And now my relationship with my son is way better than I could have ever hoped. The quality time I have with him now over these past couple of years has just been unbelievable to me, and I just am so grateful for that time that I got with him. He's 10, he was 8 when that started, and those were essentially years I kind of would have missed, and I'm not missing any of these years now. I'm traveling more, and spending a lot more time with him, so. I'm feeling really good right now.
Right.
Business
I love it.
and otherwise.
Yeah. So, Gary Keller, he talks about how important it is to know what your big why is, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how many of you guys know what your big why is? Right. So, obviously, Scott does, right? And so here's his big why is your son and the relationship that you have with him and the time you want to spend. Yeah. So you molded your business activity to support your big why. I mean, it works,
it does
right?
Work, yes.
Yeah. So becoming more purposeful and intentional with your business allowed you to really blossom in bringing in the income that you want, right? Mm-hmm. Now, did you make a goal of what you wanted to earn, and then have you reached that goal?
Well, I didn't. Actually, I had modified that goal down, as I mentioned, thinking, okay, there's no way that I'm going to be able to do that. So, no, I didn't set a goal higher. It just happened. It just happened. But I think, one of the things that's true about me is that I'm really not money motivated. I like money. I like freedom that it brings you, but I've never been money focused. You made us go through an exercise, or we went through an exercise together in one of our masterminds where we were talking about our mission and what really was our why. And I really, really discerned on it. And it was while I was going through a really difficult time. It was only a couple of years ago, but I really discovered that the paycheck doesn't matter a lot to me. I'm way more fed by the emotion that I get from doing a great job and from being appreciated and valued for what I do. If I get that, then the money just seems to be there. And I mean, I don't make a ton of money. Everybody's different. I do well. There are agents in this office that do 4 times what I do. But I do well, and I do plenty. You know, I just, as long as everything's taken care of and I can put away some retirement and I can do the things I want to do, I don't need a lot more than that. So when people really talk about tripling their business and how important that is, that's great for them. It just isn't what I'm driven by.
Right.
I'm happy to double my business as long as I don't have to work any harder. If I can double my business and work less, then I'm all for it. But if doubling my business means working twice as hard as I already do, I'm not in for it.
Right.
You know, I work hard enough, and I work hard.
Right.
And, you know, I was up at 11 o'clock last night writing emails, doing offers. You know, that's just the way it is. When we got it, we got to do it. You know, our business requires that you do it when the work's there.
Right.
And so when the work's not there, sometimes we also feel like, God, we got to be generating the next one. And we do. You got to fill the pipeline. But in your down moments, I've learned to appreciate those more and value those more. So when I'm not working, I'm trying not to let my mind go thinking about business as much as it can or had in the past.
Right.
You know?
So I don't know if you see, you know, on Facebook, but I'm like totally celebrating my birthday month. And during this birthday month, you know, have you guys seen it? Yeah. And so as you know, there are times in your life where you take stock of what you're doing, where you've come from, and where you're going. And, you know, for me, I've decided it's time to start having more fun.
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
So it's time to really like bring in, like you did when, you know, you were going through your divorce, it's time to bring in the time that's focused just on business and enjoy life for what it is. Because really we don't know how long we have to enjoy life. So, you know, right now I'm like, oh, I'm so blessed. I get to check off another year. But who knows after that, right?
Well, this last year, in the last 18 months, I lost 2 people really important to me.
Well, I'm really sorry about that.
And my uncle, who was like a brother to me, he was only 60. And then one of my very closest friends was only 53. And it definitely has like refocused me on what's really important.
Right.
And, you know, really as it relates to my son, mostly, but it's everything.
Right.
You know, like, wow, I might not have another year, you know. I hope I do. I hope I do for him more than anything, because I've lived a lot of lifetimes, I feel, in this life already. I did a lot before I was ever even married. So I've traveled a lot. That's a big thing for me. But as I looked at my next 10 years, what if there aren't 10 years? You know, I certainly don't want to be grinding every day of my last 3 years, you know. And so this past year, I've been to New York a couple times. I went to New Orleans. I'm going to Costa Rica. I'm trying to plan a trip to Switzerland. These are important things for me. So I'm just trying to make sure I take care of myself too, and just trust that the business will get done.
Well, I love it. So, you know, when we plan our calendar at the beginning of the year, you know, we're taught that we should put in what our me time is, right? Like family vacations and, you know, days off that you want to take and things like that. So I love to hear that you've got some big things that you've planned. And, you know, making money, it's important because it provides you the opportunity to do these things, right? So it provides you freedom and peace of mind and, you know, your ability to do your big why, which is spending quality time with your son, right? And with your loved ones, whoever they may be, right?
And with myself.
Right. And, well, you're a loved one, aren't you?
I like that. I like time alone.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
not
don't bother
everybody
me.
does, but I do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh God, do I need to talk to people? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, time alone is good.
How much time
we
do
got
we
about
have?
10 minutes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. There's just a couple things I want to give to some newer agents. A couple
Okay, cool.
ideas.
Well, why don't we just go ahead and do it?
Well, one thing I would tell younger agents, or not younger necessarily, but it mostly applies to younger, but newer agents for sure, is This thing, the telephone, use it to talk on. I find that if without that telephone and me being on it all the time, I wouldn't do anywhere near the deals that I do. People need to hear your voice. This idea that texting is enough. Texting is awesome in certain situations. Okay, it's perfect when it's meet me here at this time or giving somebody an address or something. But when you're talking to a client about the biggest deal of their life, some of them prefer that you do it that way. The engineers that don't like to talk. Okay, let's learn that early. But most people need to hear your voice and hear your confidence and know that you know what you're talking about. You cannot communicate that in an email. You just can't, and you can't do it on a text especially. And where I find it most valuable is with the other agents. Not even my clients as much as the other agents. I don't lose many deals, I'll be honest. And when I have a buyer, I don't lose. It's very rare. And it's because I'm always pitching that other agent on how solid my client is, how long we've been doing this, how experienced we are. And if you sign my deal, this deal gets done, okay? And it's not a question. And other agents, if you're on the listing side of that, you need to hear that. Because the worst thing ever is when you're listing a home and you go into contract and it falls back out of contract. That's a horrible discussion to have with your client. Nobody wants to have it. So if you're fighting somebody and it's over 10 grand, but they know that my team is going to get this deal done and that lender is solid and these people are quality buyers and we've read everything and we're not worried about that, minor crack in the foundation, they're going to take your deal. And it's a tool that everybody should be using. I can't believe when I have a listing and I get 12 offers and I've only talked to 2 of the agents.
Right.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Why do you think you ever even have a chance?
Right.
Unless you're 50% higher than somebody or 20% higher than somebody else. It just blows my mind that people will just email off.
Oh, just showed your age.
Didn't I? So, and to me, it's also really important with the other agents. If I have somebody who's looking at a house, they're interested in buying it, happened yesterday, I pick up the phone and call every pending agent, every listing that's pending, find out what the story is on that, find out what that price point is that they went into contract on, and if there were any problems with the house, if anybody conceded any of their commissions. When you go back to your client and you tell them, here are the comps, here are the sold comps that justify the price I'm telling you should offer, but here is all the data that nobody knows, okay? And there's nothing more powerful than that for your clients. And it's not that hard. And you're building that relationship with the other agents. They're hearing your name again and again. They're like, wow, that guy knows what he's doing. And there's a camaraderie that's built in that. And I'm telling you, if there's anything that you would take from any of this other than always put your client first, it's pick up the telephone. Use the telephone. It's really your biggest asset. So,
how often do you find yourself talking to the listing agent when you're representing a buyer?
Every day up until the time that we get the deal.
Mm-hmm.
What
does every day look like? So let's say you go and your clients see it on Saturday and they decide they want to write the offer and offers are due on Tuesday. What does that look like?
Let's call them Saturday at the end of the day when I know they're done with their open house, talking to them about their activity, telling them I've got somebody that's a quality buyer, asking them to send me the disclosures, telling them, this is something I always say, is what's in the disclosures, what's in the reports that you should bring my attention to. Always say that. Because that's 100 pages of stuff most of the time. Bring my attention to the stuff that matters. Tip me off, help me out, and that always helps me, helps my team, and lets them know that I'm clued into what's really going on. So then there's that, and then I usually will look through the reports and I'll usually call them about something. Even if I don't care, I'll call them, but I'm touching base. I'm letting them know that I'm here, and every time I'm saying, look, I got somebody quality. I'm just kind of edging around the relationship, making sure that they know that I'm a strong agent, that I know what I'm doing, that I'm going to close the deal if they give it to me, finding out how much other activity is, what's my competition going to look like. Or if I call you at noon, when offers are due on noon, will you tell me what the other offers are? Mm-hmm. Always ask that. Always. Usually they'll say absolutely, especially if you built the relationship. I always know what I'm up against, or almost always. Every once in a while I find an agent that's really good that won't say anything. I respect that agent, you know? Mm-hmm. But we just contractually, you should know that there's no obligation not to tell you what you're competing with. They have the full ability to tell you what the other offers are, okay? The only way they don't is if you write an offer and it has a non-disclosure of the offer. It's a separate piece of paper that you have to submit with your offer. Then they can't talk about your offer, but nobody knows that. So
I remember Mark Miano talked about that, and I was mind blown.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize that we could talk about the other offers and the prices and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, like on the listing side, I like talking about the other offers. Mm-hmm. Let's get it up.
Yeah.
Here's what
I know,
you have
right?
to do to
It's
win.
like use it, right?
Yeah, totally use
Mm-hmm.
it. You know, and they might come back to you and say, I can't tell you that. And you say, you know, it's very respectfully. You say, did you know that you actually can? And it's actually important that you do, because your job is to get the highest price out of this house. And you know, by sharing that with me, I'm much more inclined to have my buyer go up from there a little bit to win this deal. You know, or I'm going to tell you why my deal's better and it's 10 grand less. But it gives you it's the dialogue that matters. You know, it's the building a rapport with the person on the other end of the line. I know Mark's looking like, of course it is, Scott, but a lot of these people are new. You know?
I know.
You know,
So what else?
One
What
of
else
the other
is
things
important?
that I say is real important is celebrate the success of your colleagues. You know, I feel like a lot of people it's the Joneses situation, and there's enough for all of us, you know?
Yeah.
This is a rich valley. There are a lot of properties. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money. There's always business out there. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that. But with your fellow employees and colleagues, it's important that we all support each other and that we help each other and that we celebrate their successes, you know? I've come across agents who get all tight and weird when you do well, and it just blows me away. You know, like, I'm so happy when people tell me how well they've done. You know, I just think it's great for all of us. You know, it's about energy, and it's about everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to feel like they're good and have performed. And, you know, that value means a lot to most of us that are in sales. And Lord knows how much work we do without compensation. You know, so we're in a weird business. We could put in a ton of time and never get $1. And most things aren't like that. You know, there's not a lot of instant gratification in this business. So when we get that check or we get that deal or we get that listing, we need to be happy about it. And I mean, I know that's not hard when you get the listing, but when other people get the listing, when you see a guy that got his first deal, you know, I just love that, you know,
Yeah.
or somebody got 5 this month, you know, that has never done that in their career. I love it. I just love it. I love every one of you to be super successful. That would make me super happy, because I know I'm gonna be, but I want all of us to be, you know, I really do. And I just think that that's important. I've seen people that don't have that attitude, and I just encourage people to have that attitude. There's an abundance out there. You just got to tap into it.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, again, talking about energy, it's like, you know, if Sophie's happy here because she got something, right? And then if Koji, and then, you know, everybody, right? And it's like, if everybody's like happy, like, oh, I did this, then like the whole room is happy.
Right.
And you go out into the world and your potential clients feel that energy, you get more business. So yeah, spread the love, spread the joy,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's all about celebration. What else? What else would you like to just go ahead and pass his words of wisdom to everybody here.
Shoot, now you're pressing me. Those were a couple of things I wanted to
Those
get
were
out
great.
there.
No, those were great. But we've really talked about a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of wisdom and inspiration in what you've said today. Would you guys agree? Yeah, absolutely, right? Yeah, see? Yeah, and thank you for being so open and honest and transparent and truly sharing.
Yeah.
Because, we all go through our dark times. And so it's good to know, okay, we could just continue to go and grow, and then the good times will come if we continue on our path.
Right.
So, anything
Something
you
else,
want to...
yeah, something else that did come to mind is, one of the things that I've done over time, and I would encourage you to do right out of the gate. It'll be harder if you don't have a lot of experience, but I really, when you're a realtor in Silicon Valley, it's there are a lot of us, and differentiating yourself is a challenge. There's not a person in this room that doesn't probably believe that. One of the ways that I do it, though, is that I really position myself, and it's because I have more experience than a lot of people, but I position myself more as a financial advisor that uses real estate as the tool. I don't call myself a realtor. I know that's what I do, and that's one of our titles, but you won't see that on any of my stuff. I don't feel like I'm a realtor. I feel like I'm a financial advisor that helps people, realize their dreams and helps investors build wealth. And most of the time when I'm talking to people, it's not usually just about their house. It's about their life and about where are we going. It's a bigger picture than their house. I don't try and push the house down, but the house is just a piece, and normally in these conversations, the transaction is just a foregone conclusion. It's about what you're doing, where you're going, what your goals are. And the fact that I'm going to market and sell your house as good or better than anybody else isn't even really discussed. We don't talk that much about commission. We don't talk about my marketing plan very much. That's a foregone conclusion. What are we going to do to get you where you want to go? And don't focus so much on the details of that listing, or I'm going to do a virtual tour. Well, everybody's going to do a virtual tour. So don't make that a big part of your pitch, because then you're not going to win. Your pitch is about understanding the human being and where they are in the world and why they want to make this happen. And relating to them on that level and listening and totally understanding that, then you're going to have a lot more success. If you're going up against 4 other realtors and your biggest pitch is that you're going to do a video, we're in trouble,
No.
Especially if you're going against somebody with a big resume, you're going to have some trouble. And you don't want to be cutting your commissions down to next to nothing just to get the deal, I've lowered my commission a few times to make something happen, but don't make that a consistent thing. But yeah, don't look at it like every other realtor, That would be advice. It's not the easiest thing, but if you just lop yourself in with everybody else, find out what your value is, find out what you're great at, find out why you're the best person for the job, and then go tell them that. I remember somebody in this office came up to me and said she lived in this neighborhood and she knew a house was going on the market, and she knew everything about every listing, but she didn't have a ton of deals in her back pocket. She said, "What do I do, Scott?" I said, "Go up to the door, knock on it, and tell them you're the best person for the job." Simple as that. She might have to back it up, but at least she's going to get that opportunity. At least you're going to go in with some confidence and being bold and being firmly footed, And, when you're going to go up against Greg Simpson in Los Gatos, and he's the next guy walking through the door, you better have a story that makes sense, because he's good, and he'll win if you don't have something to say that makes you good too. She had a story. She lives in that neighborhood. She's seen every deal for the last 7 years. That's what she told me. I'm like, don't tell me, tell them.
That's
He's like,
awesome
you would
advice.
do that? I said, I would. That's all I would do.
Did she get it?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't think so. I
Yeah,
don't think
because she didn't come back and tell you.
Well, I think what I told her was too daunting for her. Like,
Oh.
I could tell her reaction was that she's never going to do that.
Okay.
You know?
Hopefully she'll find the
I haven't
strength
seen her
within
in a long
herself.
time around here, but maybe that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's the way I would have approached it, and that's the way I feel like you should too. Just go in and be the strongest and be the best and relate to them, and I hate to say it, but become their friend, become somebody that they like. People want to work with people that they like, and I don't want anybody to be inauthentic. I'm never inauthentic, but I do try and figure out where our common denominators are, what we have in common, what I could talk about that makes sense, that, are they a golfer, do they have kids, where do they go to school, whatever it is, I'm lucky that I have wine. Almost everybody loves wine. It's a good thing to talk about. It really is. But just be confident in every conversation. That, to me, that's what wins me more business than anything else, most likely. Mm-hmm. I just act like I'm the best at it, and whether I am or not, I don't know, but I'm darn good at it.
Mm-hmm. So it's all about being authentically you, finding the connection to the client, knowing that you could do the business and you can excel at the business, knowing that, and just portraying that confidence while being completely authentic, right?
Yep.
That's wonderful. I love it.
Yep.
That's awesome. So we're done, but is there anybody who's got a burning question that you want to ask? No? Go ahead.
So you mentioned about asking the listing agent if there's any offers and if they can share with you.
Sure.
Working with a buyer, would you ask that listing agent, where can I come in to potentially, if they're listing at $2 million and you think it might be high and maybe you want to come in at 1.75 or 1.8, would you ask? I'm just throwing out numbers.
Of course,
Would you
I'd ask
them, where can I come in to potentially get that?
I would say,
That deal.
for me, that depends on how many days you have on market. You can't come in and ask for 175 if they've been on the market for 3 days.
No, yeah, I know.
You look silly.
Right.
But if they've been on 10 days, they've been through a round of open houses, we all know that, hey, if you're priced aggressively, you're getting activity on that Monday after the open houses. And if you call on Tuesday or Monday, at the end of the day, this happened to me yesterday. So they went through a round of open houses, no offers, only a few disclosures. It's a lot in the nuance that you can't get out of an email, but it's a nuance of that conversation. Not only how many disclosures did you send out? No, I think 3 or 4. I think okay, none or 1. Or they come out and say, I sent 6 out in the last hour and I've had 7 calls on it, and it's just you can communicate, but you can't bullshit too much, So my point though is that I have no problem coming in and saying, okay, you've been on the market 10 days. What's your buyer, what's your seller really looking for? Because this is what I think is a strong offer, and here's why. Here are the comps. I think you're kind of overpriced. That's probably your seller probably really wanted you to do that. I get it, but here's a good buyer, strong offer. Here's why I think this is the right price. What do you think I always do it verbally first.
I love that.
Pick their brain first.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then,
thank you,
they'll
Scott.
come back and say, well, we know we're a little high, but 1.8 would be too low at this point. Well, what would get it done? Would you look hard at 1.825? I think I could get my buyers to go there. I think I could get them up from that number we just talked about, but not a ton. Back. Maybe, dig a little deeper. Then call again the next day. Let them know you're there. Let them know you're real. They didn't get any other disclosures requests the next day. Now they're starting to think about you a little bit more. But if you're not there, if you're not present in their mind, then you're just coming, then that first call is 3 days from then. Start that dialogue sooner than later, for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lisa?
You haven't spoken
Jay, I'm sorry. Lisa?
I have so many questions now in my head.
Well, just one real quick.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, I know you mentioned the listings that you really like to deep dive and bring the relationship to
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Do you also, with your buyers, do you sit down, because you sort of have this financial consultant twist to it, do you do buyers consultations with them? Or
Always.
not necess- okay.
Always the first thing is that. You know, it's not the first thing. The first thing is a phone conversation, and then I make sure that they get qualified. I just said we're not even really, not in a rude way, of course, but in a way that, hey, we really can't get started until you get qualified. I have great lenders I work with. If you don't have somebody you already really are dedicated to, I'd love it if I could introduce you to him and her. But let's get that out of the way, you know, have that conversation with them. And then, you know, just so we know that piece is out. Because I don't want to go in and start talking about 1.8 properties when they can afford 1.4, you know. It's a waste of everybody's time. That's part of what I was talking about at the beginning. I'm into like cutting right to the chase, but be doing it delicately, you know.
Okay, and then just the second part of that is, so people I've sat down with and had the buyer's consultations, those have been great transactions. But then I have some people who are kind of like, let's just go look at homes. Do you even deal with, how do you handle that now?
Well, I am lucky that everybody that comes to me pretty much is referral based. So I don't really have to do that. And I know that's a real difficult situation for a lot of realtors because you're getting them off the internet or you're getting them off a sign call or something like that. But I do know a lot of agents and top producers that won't deal with a client unless they sit down with them. It's just real important. Try and get them into the office too, because you want them to see the professionalism here and the size of what we are and the KW name. And I'm not a huge proponent necessarily of brokerages, but that's an asset that you have and you should use it. You'll look more professional, you'll look more polished if you can get them to come in and sit down here. Okay? And have that as, you know, I guess there's those times when you can't and people are just want to stay on the phone, but push, even if it's a 15-minute meeting. The eye-to-eye connection, the shaking hands, the stability that you can bring to that relationship is critical to the success of it.
Awesome, thank you.
So,
Jay,
quick
real
question.
quick.
You've done a lot of commercial business, other business as well.
Uh-huh.
So as a new agent, what do we have advice? Because I mean, I'm getting some referral for a couple of land deals and
Mhm.
not sure they want to go out. So at what point did you decided to be commercial and what would you make you decide either ways?
I'm surprised. Yeah, that's a great question. And thanks for bringing it up, and I'll try and make it quick because I know we're done. But I would encourage every single one of you to open, not necessarily go into commercial, but think about investors. Think about working with investors. So the reason I got into it, though, was because when the market tanked to 8, 9, 10, it became a very emotional business at that point. For me, I was hurting and I was desperate. And I think everybody smells desperation. So even if you are desperate, don't smell like it. But it was I'm a sensitive person, and there were a lot of people short selling their houses. There were a lot of people in despair. There was a lot of emotion in the business and during that time. And that's when I decided I wanted to alter my business and work with investors more than homeowners. And so I kind of changed my business model and started marketing to and going after people for second homes in Santa Cruz, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, because I knew it was a numbers business and less emotional, you know, and people had more experience. And the more I got into it, the more I liked it. And I still like the investor business more than the home sale business or single family business. And now I have a real great mix of both. But what I find, though, is because I do focus on that, and you just have to do one deal, and then it's just like any other thing. We're all scared on our first deal, and I was scared on my first multi-unit deal, too. But once I did it, I was like, wow, this isn't that hard, actually. It's a lot like that. And then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then it's like, damn, I'm good at this, and I'm an expert at this, you know? And the important part for me, though, was I did it for emotional reasons, but it has really, really been a great move for me in my larger business. About 50% of my business is with investors now, multi-unit, office buildings, land deals, vacation homes. And then the other, my manager back in Ontario, which is where I was for 10 years before here, told me, Scott, because I was only going to go that way and just do investors. I like it more. And he said, don't give up your residential business. He said, I'm telling you, as sure as you're sitting here, that you've done great business. It's going to keep coming around. And I'm so glad he told me that, because, you know, my average sale is around 1.6. That's $35,000 paychecks. Bam, 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 that I would have given up, you know. That would have been silly. That would have been a mistake. You know, who knows? Lord knows, it might not have been, but I'm very glad, because I like the diversity of my business. It makes it sometimes harder to market. I don't want my investors thinking that I can't sell their house, and I don't want my single family people thinking that I only do investment property. So that's my own issue. But anyway, that was a great question, and that's why I went that way, and it was several years ago. But I'm glad I did, and I would encourage everybody to do that.
Scott Poncetta, you have been such a wealth of knowledge. I have so enjoyed this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edith.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Next month is Ryan LaRocca.